It had been almost a year since I left the sirens behind. 8 years on the job as an EMT will either make you or break you, and by the end, I was broken. Not from one big thing, no explosion or bloody pile-up to blame, just a slow erosion. The kind you don't feel until something inside you caves in. I left without a plan. Sold my place in Fort Worth, moved west where rent was cheap and expectations were lower. I thought I'd get into vet work, or maybe take a few courses. But mostly I slept too much, drank too much, and thought too much about things I couldn't change. Then came the job at Quick Fast, a 24-hour gas station off Route 179, about 10 miles outside Weatherford. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid just enough and kept me busy on the night shift. My kind of hours, no rush, no people screaming, and nothing bleeding on my boots. The only other person on nights was Russell, a middle-aged guy with bad knees and a boxy frame who walked like his joints were full of gravel. We didn't talk much. He mostly stayed in the back, counting inventory and listening to old country on his ancient flip phone. I was fine with that. Quiet was good. Quiet meant nothing went wrong. But that night, November 15th, 2022, quiet didn't last. I remember it was cold, not winter cold, but wet, bone-deep cold. A drizzle hung in the air like it didn't know how to fall properly. The streets were empty. The pumps were silent. Even the crickets had given up. It was 11:47 p.m. when the chime over the glass door rang. I looked up from a half-solved crossword, expecting a trucker, or maybe a local drunk. Instead, a man stepped in wearing a damp hoodie, jeans soaked from the cuffs up, and in one hand, a red plastic gas can. He didn't speak, just stared past me, toward the back of the store. He was thin, not starved, but that wiry, weather-worn kind of thin you see in men who live in their cars or haven't had anyone care for them in a while. His face was blank, like a photograph left out in the rain. Nothing to read there, just washed-out features and empty eyes. "Pump's not working tonight," I said, like it was any other transaction. "Before you need to pay inside." He turned away before I could finish, slipped down the snack aisle past the display of 2-for-1 Monster cans and rotating beef jerky rods. I watched him on the overhead cam, trailing a small puddle of rainwater, his footsteps soft, but too slow. Then he vanished off camera. I was about to call out when Russell's voice came over the intercom. His voice was gravelly, scared. "Mags, don't move, he's holding something." I froze. "What?" "He's got something in his hand. I saw him by the cooler. Not a gun, something else. Metal, big." My fingers hovered under the counter just above the panic button, the silent alarm we were trained to hit only if it was life or death. Then the man appeared again. Only this time he had an axe. He held it low, the blade rusted, handle chipped, like something salvaged from a junkyard or a house fire. But the way he gripped it, that told me everything. It wasn't for show. It wasn't for fear. He was going to use it. He looked up and smiled. Not a wide grin, just a little curl at the corner. A smile like he'd seen this play out before. I slammed the button. He didn't flinch. "You always call them," he said. His voice was soft, raspy, as if his throat had been burned. "Always the same. Same lights, same sound, same look on your face." It hit me then. Not a memory, but a feeling. Recognition. This man, he knew me, or thought he did. He stepped forward, dragging the axe blade across the wire snack racks, knocking off bags of Doritos and Pringles one at a time. The screech of metal on metal sent chills up my spine. Not just because of the sound, but because he was toying with me, making a mess like a child bored at a grocery store, the kind of chaos you can't explain. I backed toward the door behind the counter. "Sir, look," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "You don't need to." Wham. "Whatever's going on, we can talk, okay? Just..." He brought the axe down on the counter, not 5 inches from my hand. The impact cracked the cheap laminate. I stumbled back and ducked into the office, slamming the door and locking it behind me. Russell was already on the floor, one hand clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. "He got me," he gasped. Didn't see him swing, fast, too fast. I helped him lean against the filing cabinet and picked up the phone, dialing 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher answered fast. I gave the address, told her we had a weapon on site, one injured, one unstable suspect. "He's still inside," I whispered. "We're locked in the office. There's blood." "Stay on the line," she said. "Officers en route. 9 minutes. 9 minutes." The man outside began humming. It was tuneless, slow, childlike. "You always call them." He was talking to himself now, or to us. Maybe both. I watched him on the grainy black and white monitor as he paced the aisles, dragging that axe like it was a leash. Every few seconds he'd stop, sniff the air, tilt his head. Russell groaned beside me. I pressed my hand against his wound. No arterial spray. Probably muscle. Painful, but not fatal. Then the man stopped in front of the office door. He leaned close to the glass, peering in like he was checking on a pie in the oven. His mouth moved again. "You don't remember me, but I remember you." I didn't answer. I just stood frozen by the monitor, one hand on Russell's shoulder, the other gripping the receiver like it might sprout teeth and bite me if I let go. He tapped the glass once with the head of the axe. Not hard, not enough to break it, just enough to make a ping. Then he tilted his head, watching us like a bird might watch something wounded in the grass. "Maggie Dorset," he said. That stopped me cold. I hadn't worn a name tag since the 3rd week here. It scratched too much, and no one cared about names on graveyard shift. I never said it aloud in front of customers. Never. "You patched up my brother, back in 2018, southbound 820 near Bryant Irvin. Red Civic. He was bleeding out. You told him he'd be fine." I searched my memory, but my brain was swimming in adrenaline. The name, the face, it wasn't coming. "I remember," he said, almost smiling. "He wasn't fine." He started pacing again, slowly, like each step had its own gravity. "I found the report, online. You said the liver was ruptured, nothing you could have done." He stopped. "I read that line 500 times, nothing you could have done." That's when I realized. He wasn't just broken, he was anchored. Stuck in that night, spinning it over and over until it hardened into something cold and permanent. "I'm sorry," I said, voice shaking. It means I tried. I swear I tried. I don't remember everything, but if I was there, if I said Russell winced beside me, blood was still trickling, but slower now. The man chuckled softly. It was the sound of someone choking on a joke only they understood. "You were calm. You held his hand. You told him he'd make it." Then his voice shifted, lower, thicker. "You lied." I don't remember moving, but suddenly I was crouched behind the metal filing cabinet, gripping Russell's bat like it was a lifeline. The dispatcher's voice came through faint on the phone. "Ma'am, officers are approaching. Can you confirm the suspect's position?" I whispered into the receiver. "He's just outside the office door, talking to us. Do not engage, stay quiet. Officers will announce when they enter." From outside I heard the sound of footsteps, then a second tap on the glass. He leaned in close. "I thought about a gun," he said. "Cleaner, quicker. But it's not about quick. It's about remembering. You don't get to just walk away." I heard sirens in the distance, faint but rising. His expression didn't change. "You don't get to be someone else. Not after what you do." Then suddenly, he turned and walked away. Calmly, casually, as if he'd forgotten what he came in for. I watched on the monitor as he moved toward the back, past the soda coolers and pushed open the fire exit. The alarm screamed to life, but by the time the cops stormed the store, he was gone. Russell got patched up that night. 6 stitches, mild concussion, bruised ego. The cops stayed for hours, took our statements, ran the footage frame by frame. They found the axe, blood-streaked and chipped, near the employee break room. It had once belonged to Station 34, a local firehouse that had been shuttered 2 years earlier due to budget cuts. I hadn't thought about Station 34 in a long time. It was 5 minutes from where I used to run calls. I'd parked there more times than I could count, ate stale donuts in their kitchen, cried once in their laundry room after a failed pediatric run. It was where I got my first real exposure to death, to hopeless cases. I asked one of the officers if they'd identified the man. He shook his head. A go. No prints. No ID. Nothing matching in the system. The axe was reported missing 6 months. Russell didn't ask for more shifts after that. Last I heard, he moved to a security gig in Fort Worth. I quit 2 days later. The store offered counseling, a hotline, a card signed by upper management. It felt like a Band-Aid on a cracked skull. But that wasn't what haunted me. What stuck was that smile. The kind that said, "You don't remember me, but I've never stopped watching you." It's been almost 3 years now. I live in an upstairs studio on the edge of Wichita Falls. I work mornings at a local shelter, feeding strays and cleaning cages. It's quiet, the kind of quiet that comes with age and distance. But I don't walk into gas stations after dark anymore, not even to use the bathroom. Every time I see a man in a hoodie near a storefront, I feel it. The coil tightening in my gut, the memory rising like steam off old blood. I've stopped trying to explain it. Most people think trauma means flashbacks or nightmares, but it's not always that clean. Sometimes it's just noticing that every convenience store hums the same way, that the same brand of jerky sits in the same spot, that some things never change. No matter how far you run, I still look over my shoulder in every aisle. I still watch the exits when I pump gas. And sometimes, late at night, I catch myself holding my breath when someone walks through the door too slow. The worst part? He never came back. He didn't need to. The story isn't about what he did. It's about what he left, inside me. Some wounds never bleed. Some monsters don't hide under beds. They walk in when you're too tired to see them coming. And sometimes the scariest part of survival is knowing the story didn't end. You just got away first. People think it's the loud shifts that get to you. Rowdy drunks, late-night fights, the guy screaming about expired lottery tickets. But it's not. It's the quiet ones. The stillness that settles between 12 and 3 a.m. when the whole world feels like it forgot you exist. That's the kind of quiet that creeps under your skin, makes you second-guess your own reflection in the soda fridge glass. I've always been a night owl. Grew up in a house where silence meant safety. My dad was a drinker and my mom vanished when I was 12. Staying up past midnight became a habit. I liked the dark. It didn't expect anything from me. And when my boyfriend of 4 years cheated and moved out in the same week our lease was due, I found myself clinging to any shift I could get, especially the night ones. The Beacon Gas Express on Mulberry Ridge paid crap, but they didn't ask questions. I showed up. I stocked shelves. I went home. Simple. But the thing about quiet jobs is, you start noticing things that don't make noise. Little oddities, subtle shifts. I'd been working there for 6 weeks, and that Saturday in October started like the rest. Too many energy drinks in the cooler, no working camera outside, and one flickering pump light that always made me feel like someone was standing just out of view. It was around 12:22 a.m. when the door chime went off. I looked up from my crossword. A man stepped in, tall, late 40s, salt and pepper hair, clean-shaven like he stepped out of a cologne ad. Dark coat, leather gloves, way too dressed up for a back-road gas station. He didn't buy anything. "Slow night?" he asked, his voice smooth and calm like he already knew the answer. "Pretty much dead," I replied, trying to keep it light. He didn't smile, not really. He just lingered, leaned on the counter like he was waiting for something. Then came the questions. "You from around here?" "Not really," I said. "Ever get nervous working alone?" I gave a polite shrug. "You like being seen?" That one threw me. I laughed it off, played it cool. He was probably just bored. But something about the way he said it, like he wasn't asking about the job, but something deeper, something personal. "You always close by yourself?" he asked. "No," I lied. "Coworkers out back, smoking." He tilted his head just slightly. "Right, the tall guy in the red shirt?" I didn't answer. There was no coworker, no one else on shift. I hadn't even seen anyone in a red shirt all day. He tapped the counter twice, slow and deliberate, then walked out. Just like that. The moment the door shut behind him, I went to the back room and locked the door. My hands were trembling. I stared at the wall for a second, trying to process what just happened. People come in weird sometimes. It's a gas station. You get all kinds. But this wasn't weird. This was wrong. I pulled up the exterior feed on the old monitor. Static. The camera facing the front lot had been glitchy for weeks, but this was full static, white noise and black snow. I smacked the side of the monitor. Nothing changed. A few minutes passed. I started to calm down. Maybe he was just some lonely guy looking for someone to mess with. Maybe it was a test. See if I'd spook easy. But I couldn't shake that feeling in my gut. Not fear. Something worse. Recognition. Like I'd seen him before but couldn't place it. A face from a dream. Or maybe a warning. At 12:58, the bell chimed again. I nearly jumped out of my skin. This time it was him, and he wasn't alone. The woman who walked in with him was tall, wrapped in a beige trench coat, scarf pulled tight around her jaw. Blonde hair, dark lips, sharp cheekbones that seemed carved. She smiled immediately like we were old friends. "Hey," she said cheerfully. "Pay. Real benefits. You'd be perfect. We're actually hiring for a new media startup. Remote work." "Great." I blinked. "I'm not really looking right now." She leaned in, still smiling. "Show you the site. It's legit, I promise. It's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of deal. Just 5 minutes outside. We'll..." Something about her energy felt manufactured, like a puppet show just barely hiding the strings. My eyes flicked to the monitor behind the counter. No car at the pumps. But way off in the tree line, past the floodlights' reach, 2 pinpoints, headlights, no engine running, no movement. "Yeah, I'm gonna have to call my manager real quick," I said. "He's actually on his way." Her face twitched, barely, but it was there, a flinch. Then he stepped up beside her, too close. His voice dropped low, but clear enough to hear. "You should have come the first time. Now you've wasted our time." The bell rang again. "Absolutely. Here's the continuation of Don't Stay Past Midnight. Chapters 3 through 5, keeping the same grounded horror tone and first-person style." I didn't even have time to think before the bell rang again. A family walked in. A mom and dad, mid-30s, 2 kids no older than 10. The kids darted toward the candy racks like they'd just been released from a cage. It broke the tension so fast it felt like a hallucination. The woman in the scarf straightened up. Her voice flipped back to cheerful in a heartbeat. "Have a good night," she said lightly. And then they were gone. No goodbyes, no glances, just 2 silent shadows slipping out the door and disappearing into the dark. I stood frozen behind the counter while the family shopped. I didn't say a word. When they finally left, I locked the front door behind them, even though we weren't supposed to, and slid the chain across for good measure. Screw the rules. I needed the shift to end, not get worse. The rest of the night dragged like a bad fever dream. I kept glancing out the window, but the lights in the trees were gone. The glitchy camera feed still buzzed with static. I made 3 fake calls to my manager, holding the phone to my ear just in case they were still watching, just in case they came back. But they didn't. I didn't sleep the next morning. I lay on my couch, blinds closed, TV muted, playing that moment over and over in my head. The way he knew I was alone. The way she kept smiling even when I said no. The headlights in the trees. The stillness. It wasn't until 2 days later that the cop came by. He showed up in the late afternoon, just before my shift. Uniformed, clean-cut, not too old. His name was Officer Lindell. Said he was following up on a report about a woman gone missing from a gas station 2 towns over. Said she'd last been seen talking to a couple outside a Quick Go around midnight, same night as my incident. Tall man, dark coat, blonde woman in a scarf, he said, watching my reaction. I told him everything. He scribbled notes while I talked. Too quickly, I thought, like he already knew this story. Then he asked to see our camera feed. I brought him back and showed him the monitor, now working fine, of course. The outdoor footage from that night was still corrupted. He jotted that down too. He thanked me and left, but not before saying, "You did the right thing. These folks move around. Never hit the same place twice, but they leave breadcrumbs." I didn't ask what that meant. 3 nights later, someone spray-painted the word liar across the back service door in thick red paint. I found it at 6:03 a.m., just as I was finishing the shift. I filed a report. The manager said it was probably kids. Graffiti wasn't uncommon, he claimed, even though we'd never had any in the 3 years that store had been open. I knew better. I'd seen the paint. It wasn't random, it was sharp, controlled, personal. I put in for a shift change the next morning, day shifts only. No exceptions. They said I was being paranoid, said I was letting fear shape my reality. One of the assistant managers even smirked when I explained what happened. "You watch too many crime shows, he said, but he let me switch shifts. I lasted 3 more weeks. Then a news story hit local feeds. A burned-out car found in the woods near Silva. Body unrecoverable, no ID. But fragments of fabric, scarf, coat lining, matched those described in 2 separate gas station police reports. The couple was never found, and I never went back to nights. I moved 3 months later. Got a front desk job at a dog kennel just outside Boone. Still minimum wage, still on my feet all day. But at least the place has windows, and people, and locks I can trust. I keep the store's old key in my junk drawer, taped in a Ziploc bag with the word "remember" scrawled across it. Because what happened to me wasn't a story. It wasn't a close call or a lesson in caution. It was a pattern that almost claimed me, that still haunts empty places, that waits in dark tree lines and broken cameras and flickering lights above Pump 4. Sometimes I wonder how many of us they talked to before they found someone who said yes. How many of us were just lucky, and how many never got to quit. If something feels off, it probably is. Trust the gut instinct, the invisible alarm, the unease in your bones. The world doesn't always scream its dangers. Sometimes it whispers them, hoping you'll ignore the sound. Don't. I've always believed places hold memory, not just the kind etched into buildings or road signs, but the kind that clings to the air. Ridgeway was one of those places, the kind that doesn't want to be remembered but doesn't let you forget. I'd been 3 weeks on the road. No plan, just a cheap rental and a half-finished article that no one had asked for. I was writing about dying towns, the quiet spaces between exits, places you blink through without ever stopping. I guess I wasn't looking for a story. I was looking to disappear into one. By the time I pulled off Old Timber Road, snow had started to drift sideways across the windshield like loose static. Ridgeway fuel stop looked like a mirage. The red paint had curled back from its wooden frame. One light flickered above the front door, barely illuminating the cracked concrete beneath it. I was running on empty, gas and willpower both. Inside, the place smelled faintly of coffee and old oil. There was no music, no news radio, just silence and the low hum of a chest freezer near the back. Behind the counter sat a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with pale skin and messy blonde hair tied in a low knot. She didn't look up when I came in, just flipped a page of her paperback and nodded in my direction. I grabbed a bag of jerky, 2 bottled waters, and poured a black coffee from the thermal pot that looked older than I was. I was halfway to the counter when the door creaked open behind me. 2 men stepped in, both in hunting camo. Big boots, dried mud cracking off as they walked. One was tall, rangy, the other shorter but heavier, like an ex-linebacker. They didn't browse. They didn't look around. They just looked at me. "Out of town?" the taller one asked, like it wasn't a question. I nodded. "Just passing through." He grinned without humor. "Road's about to ice over." "I'll take my chances," I muttered, stepping forward. The woman scanned my items slowly. Her voice was barely above a whisper when she said, "Don't hang around here too long." She didn't meet my eyes. I paid in cash, something I rarely did. The silence followed me out into the cold. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The pump didn't work. I slid my card in. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. I pressed the screen. It flickered, then died. The nozzle was frozen to the holster like it hadn't been used in weeks. I turned back toward the store. The two hunters were still inside, standing where I left them. But the cashier, she was gone. I stepped inside again. "Hey," I called. "Pump's not working." No answer. The taller man tilted his head. "She's out back." It wasn't the words. It was how he said them, like he'd rehearsed them, like he wasn't even trying to sound convincing. That's when my stomach turned. "She didn't even have a coat," I said, more to myself than them. Neither of them moved. I backed out slowly, hands open. Outside, snow was coming down thicker. I could barely see the tree line anymore. That's when I caught movement. Someone standing along the side of the building, peeking from around the corner. It was her. She waved her hand once, then ducked back out of view. I moved quickly, careful not to run. Rounded the corner. She was pressed up against the brick, breath fogging the air between us. "Here," she whispered. "Don't let them box you in. They're not from..." I looked past her shoulder and saw it. Another truck, no lights, parked low in the snow just beyond the property line. Its license plate was covered in duct tape. Something was very wrong. "What the hell's going on?" I asked. "You don't want to know," she said, backing away. "You hesitate. Just get in your car and go. They'll follow if I didn't wait." I bolted to my car, shoes sliding on the icy lot, fumbled the keys. The driver's door barely closed before I slammed it into reverse and floored the gas. The car skidded sideways, clipped the edge of a snowbank, and kept going. I caught a glimpse of one of the men stepping outside. The other followed close behind, something metal hanging from his hand. A pipe? A tool? I wasn't going to stick around to find out. I gunned it. Snow flew up around me, obscuring the rear view. The gas light had been on before I pulled in. I was running on fumes, but I couldn't stop. Not until I saw real lights. Civilization. For the next 20 miles, I didn't look back. Didn't check my mirrors, didn't blink too long. The road was mostly deserted. One long black ribbon stretching into nowhere. No signs, no towns, just white noise and fear. When I finally coasted into the next gas station, a shell with bright LED signage and a family unloading snacks into a minivan, I was shaking. My fuel gauge said 3 miles remaining. I stumbled into the convenience store, phone already in hand, and called the county sheriff. The woman who answered sounded casual at first, but when I told her the name of the station, Ridgeway Fuel Stop, there was a long pause. "You sure that's the place?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "The counter, early 20s. Deli, red building, out on Timber Road, 2 guys in camo." A blonde girl behind her voice changed. "Sir, that station's been closed since August. Electrical fire. Girl working that night didn't make it. Elena Sanders. You must be mistaken." I almost dropped the phone. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the parking lot until dawn, doors locked, engine running, eyes glued to the road. Every time a pair of headlights appeared, my stomach knotted. I pulled the receipt from my coat pocket around 3 a.m., needing proof I hadn't imagined it all, but the paper was blank. The ink had bled, twisted into black static, Nothing legible. The coffee cup still had Ridgway's logo, but it looked older than I remembered. Faded, like it hadn't been printed in years. I started searching online. Ridgway Fuel Stop had burned down on August 3rd, 2022, 6 months earlier, to the day. The article had a photo. Elena Sanders. That was her. Same face. Same paperback novel on the counter behind her. Same smirk that never quite reached her eyes. I wanted to vomit. I closed the laptop and sat in silence until my battery died. I don't tell people that story anymore. I tried once at a bar in Pittsburgh, drunk enough to stop caring about how I sounded. The guy next to me just laughed and asked what I was really on. I don't write about Ridgway. It's the one chapter that never made it into the article. It's the ghost story that clings too close to the skin. The thing is, I've seen places fall apart. Ghost towns, abandoned rest stops, the edges of America where the lights don't stay on anymore. But Ridgway wasn't just forgotten. It was still there, waiting, and something else was waiting inside it. Sometimes I dream about Elena. She's always standing behind the counter, flipping a page, looking up just long enough to whisper something I can't quite hear. I've stopped trying to understand what Ridgway was, or is. Some things don't need to be written down. They just need to be remembered, just long enough to never go back. Some places don't die, they wait. If the road feels too quiet and the air too still, trust your instincts. Not every exit is meant to be taken, and not every place on the map is still part of the world you know. I'm not the kind of person who talks much. Not in groups, not online, not to my neighbors. And I sure as hell don't like drawing attention to myself. That's partly why I started taking night shifts at Northside Fuel Mart over on Holland Ave, just outside of Erie. Nights are quiet. Nights don't ask much from you. I took the job because I needed something steady. Anxiety kept me from sticking to crowded work environments, restaurants, offices, you name it. But a half-empty gas station past midnight? That I could handle. It was mid-April, still cold enough to see your breath. My coworker, Todd, had called in with the flu, and our manager all but begged me to cover the graveyard shift. I wasn't thrilled, but I needed the hours. I figured it would be a dead night. Just coffee refills, maybe someone grabbing smokes. Nothing unusual. The rain had let up around 2 a.m., and the station was glowing like a washed-out photograph. Fluorescent bulbs overhead, puddles reflecting the harsh white light, a vending machine buzzing softly by the ice chest. I was behind the counter reorganizing the cigarette shelf, half watching an old crime documentary on the tiny TV mounted above the fridge when I noticed the headlights roll in. A white pickup truck, mid-2000s Ford maybe, pulled up to pump 6. It didn't start fueling. At first I thought the guy might have forgotten his wallet or was checking something in the truck bed, but he didn't move. After a full minute, he stepped out and stood next to the pump. No phone in his hand, no urgency, just standing, looking. I waited, thinking maybe he'd come inside to pay cash or ask for help, but he didn't. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The guy just stood there under the pump light, face shadowed by the brim of his hat and the hood of his black jacket. His hands were shoved deep in his pockets. He was facing the station but not moving toward it, not even shifting his weight. I pressed the intercom button. "Hey sir, need help out there?" Nothing, not even a twitch. Then, he started to walk in slow circles around the pump. Deliberate, like he was pacing something out. He didn't look at the price display, didn't even glance at the pump handle. Just walked that loop again and again. That's when I started to get the feeling. You know the one. When your gut tightens for no good reason and your brain whispers that something's not right, even if you can't say what. Then he looked up at the security camera directly above the pump and smiled. Not the kind of smile you give when someone holds a door open. No warmth. No friendliness. Just this slow, off-kilter grin that curled up one side of his mouth while the rest of his face stayed stone still. I didn't even realize I'd stepped back until I felt the edge of the ice cream cooler behind me. I muttered nope under my breath, ducked into the back office, and locked the door. Inside, I pulled up the camera feed. There he was, still circling, still watching. And that's when I noticed the passenger door. It was slightly open. Barely more than a crack, but enough. Enough to see what looked like a person slumped inside. Long hair, pale, not moving. I squinted. Could have been a woman. Could have been a mannequin. Could have been dead for all I knew. The power flickered then, just once. Just enough to make the screens blink out and come back. When they did, he was gone. I froze. There was no ding from the front door, no footsteps, no engine sound, just silence. My eyes darted to the back monitor, and my heart nearly dropped into my stomach. Nothing on camera. I checked the lot feed, truck still parked. Passenger door now closed. That meant he was somewhere between me and the pump. Then, a knock. Not from the front. From the back door. The staff door. The one I had locked when I came in. I held my breath. Another knock. Louder. Followed by scratching, like something hard dragging against metal. My phone was already in my hand. I whispered, 911, please. I think someone's trying to break in. The dispatcher stayed calm, told me officers were 5 minutes out, maybe 6. Told me to stay on the line and stay in the office. I did. The scratching stopped. Then, motion alert. Pump 2 lit up. He was back, walking slowly toward the truck like none of it had happened. I watched him climb in and drive away. Just like that. No rush. No panic. Tail lights shrinking down Holland Avenue until they disappeared into the night. When the officers got there, I was still shaking. They took statements, asked if I recognized the guy, checked the cameras. When they ran the plates on the truck, they came back stolen, from a town 3 hours west. The officers replayed footage I hadn't checked yet, about an hour before he pulled up to the pump. The truck had been parked across the street, lights off, facing the station, just watching. They zoomed in. You could see the driver barely moving, head tilting once or twice, waiting. What about the passenger? I asked. They paused the tape, zoomed again. Hard to say. One of them muttered. Worse. Could be a mannequin, or someone unconscious. Maybe they combed the surrounding blocks, even checked a few motel lots, but the truck was gone. They never found it. Never found the man. Never got a license match that led to anything solid. I still work there. I still do night shifts, though never alone. That was the deal I made with myself. Manager understood. So did the cops. Nothing's happened since. Nothing like that anyway. But every now and then, a truck rolls in late, stops at a pump, just sits there. And I watch. Not for the face, not for the smile. I watch for the ones who don't pump gas, who never get out. I've learned that not every customer is here for fuel. Some are hiding, some are hunting. Some just want to be seen by someone, anyone, before they disappear again. And me? I lock the back door first, always. Even the most ordinary places can harbor quiet danger. Stay alert, trust your instincts, and never ignore the signs, especially when someone is doing everything except what they're supposed to. I don't usually drive at night. I've never liked it. Something about the way the dark pulls in around the road like you're the only person left in the world. But that Saturday night, I didn't have much of a choice. My best friend Jess had one of her famous movie nights. This time it was all horror, and the marathon went longer than expected. I told my grandma I'd be back by 10. It was past 11:30 when I finally left. Normally I'd take Highway 9 home. It's lit, familiar, safe. But that night there was construction. My GPS rerouted me through the back roads I hadn't been down since I was a teenager riding shotgun in my cousin's car. I was already uncomfortable, tired, and hungry when the gaslight came on. I cursed under my breath. Grandma always told me never to let the tank get too low. "You don't know what might happen on these roads," she'd say. I used to roll my eyes at her, but now I was alone on a pitch-black highway with trees pressing in on either side like they were trying to whisper something. Then, like an oasis, I saw a sign. It was one of those old gas station signs buzzing in flickers above the trees. Franklin Fuel Stop. It didn't even look open at first. The lot was cracked, weeds in the concrete, and the only other vehicle was an old black sedan parked weirdly by the air pump. No lights on, no one inside. I slowed anyway, told myself it would only take 5 minutes. Fill up, grab a drink, get home. That's all it was supposed to be. The bell on the door chimed when I stepped inside. No music, no radio. Just a faint buzzing from a faulty light in the corner and the low hum of a cooler near the wall. Behind the counter sat an older man in a green flannel shirt. Looked like he hadn't shaved in a few days. He was working on a crossword puzzle, pencil tapping the edge of the counter. I gave a soft, "Hi," and he barely glanced up. The place smelled like old floor cleaner and stale coffee. One soda fridge, one shelf of snacks. No hot food, no Slurpee machine. I grabbed a bottle of Dr. Pepper and a granola bar. As I paid, I asked, "Pump still working?" The man looked up slowly like I'd asked him for his social security number. "Pump. Cash only, though." "Yeah," he said. "It'll." I nodded, handed him a 10, and stepped back outside. The night air hit different. Heavy. The kind of heavy you only notice when you realize how alone you are. I turned toward my car and froze. The black sedan's driver door was open. No one had walked past me, no footsteps, no sound. The door had been closed when I walked in. My hand tightened around my keys. I moved fast, popped my gas tank, and started pumping. My eyes kept flicking around the lot, scanning the shadows. That's when I heard him. "You from around here?" He wasn't there a second ago. Now he was standing maybe 10 feet away. Tall, dressed in dark jeans and a zip-up jacket pulled all the way to his chin. Ball cap low over his face. I didn't hear him approach. No crunch of gravel. Nothing. I cleared my throat. "Just passing through," I said. Tried to sound bored, not scared. He tilted his head. "Out here alone." "These roads," he said, voice low and even. "Not safe. Girls shouldn't stop. I won't be long." "You don't look like you're in a rush." The pump clicked. I nearly cried from relief. I yanked the handle, shoved it back into the cradle, and turned to face him. He was closer now, a little too close. "You waiting on someone?" he asked. "No." "You sure?" I took one step back, angled toward my car. "Yeah, sure." My phone was still inside, my purse too. I kept my keys tight in my fist. I glanced toward the station window. The clerk was gone. The lights inside flickered just once and the front went dark. My breath caught in my throat. Then I saw it. My passenger door was cracked open. I hadn't opened it. "Back off," I said. Louder this time. My voice sounded higher than I wanted. The man didn't move. Then the sedan headlights flicked on behind him. Somebody was sitting in the front seat, watching. That's when I moved. I didn't think. I dove into the driver's seat, slammed the door shut, and locked it all in one motion. I reversed fast, tires squealing, nearly clipping the rusted mailbox by the exit. My heart was in my ears. My hands were shaking so hard the wheel rattled. I didn't look back. Not until I hit the 2-lane stretch that curved toward the state road. Still no headlights in my mirror. I didn't stop driving until I saw the lit sign of a Dollar General 12 miles down. I pulled in, jumped out of the car, and ran inside. The poor kid behind the counter looked terrified when I begged him to call the cops. 20 minutes later, an officer showed up. I told him everything. He listened, asked questions, took down my information. He called for another unit and said they'd go check out the station. He came back 30 minutes after that, shaking his head. "Ma'am," he said, "Franklin Fuel Stop's been shut down for months. No working permits, no utilities. It's been off the grid since April. You didn't walk into a gas station. You walked into a building someone's squatting in." I asked about the sedan. The man, the napkin in the door. They didn't find the car. The building was dark, empty, no clerk, no puzzle book, nothing, no surveillance, no trace. They told me I was lucky, said I probably scared them off. I wasn't so sure. I didn't sleep that night. Even after I got home, locked every door, turned on every light, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd missed something, that I hadn't fully escaped it. In the morning, after I'd finally dozed off for an hour or two, I went back outside to check my car. Part of me needed proof, needed to see that I hadn't imagined it all. That's when I saw the napkin, folded neatly, tucked into the side pocket of my passenger door. I didn't put it there. No one I know would have. I unfolded it slowly, stomach turning. In uneven handwriting it said, "You left the back unlocked." I stood in my driveway, staring at it for what felt like forever. I still have it, in a drawer. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I don't know why. I haven't driven alone at night since. I don't take shortcuts, and I never let my tank drop below half. Some places aren't abandoned. They're waiting, and danger doesn't always shout. It watches, it waits, and it walks right up to your passenger door when you think you're alone. Trust your gut, lock your doors, and never ignore the signs, even when they come wrapped in quiet. I've always been more comfortable with silence than conversation. It's easier to make sense of a spreadsheet than people. That's not bitterness, just honesty. I'm a data analyst, the kind of guy who disappears into rows and formulas. I was always good at numbers, not feelings. After my divorce last winter, the silence got worse. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was hollow. I started working later and later, not because I had to, but because it gave me something to focus on. I'd stay at the remote satellite office in Forest Lake well past midnight, just me and the glow of 2 monitors in a building no one else touched after 5. It was early July, humid and dead still. I'd been sitting at my desk since about 5 p.m., staring at models for a client presentation due Thursday. Around 2 a.m., my eyes burned. My spine ached. I stood, stretched, and realized I needed a drink or I'd fall asleep right there. The vending machines in the building hadn't worked in weeks. I remembered the lakeside shell down the road, just a quarter mile into the trees near where the reservoir used to be before it dried up 2 summers ago. That place always looked a little forgotten even during the day. At night it was worse. It glowed faintly behind thinning pine trees, 2 old pumps out front and flickering signage that probably hadn't been updated since Y2K. Still, it was the only place open. I grabbed my wallet and keys and made the short drive. I figured I'd be in and out in under 5 minutes, at most. I pulled into the lot and parked near the second pump. The lights overhead buzzed and flickered like they were tired of doing their job. The building sat low and quiet, a glass front with dusty windows and a faded open sign half lit in the corner. When I stepped inside, the door buzzed with that metallic hum you only hear in gas stations and old diners. No chime, no welcome. The store was dim. A single cooler hummed softly along the wall. The overhead lights were faint and yellowing, like they hadn't been replaced in years. No music, no sound from the clerk. Just a strange, soft beeping, faint, steady, rhythmic. I noticed it immediately. It was coming from the back corner near the cleaning supplies. Behind the counter sat a man, late 50s maybe, wiry frame, gray beard. He was flipping slowly through a tattered paperback novel, one hand resting on the counter like he'd been there for decades. He looked up, eyes pale and bored, and gave me the smallest nod. I walked the aisles, grabbed a bottle of root beer and a protein bar. The beeping never stopped. At the register, I asked, "You hear that? That beeping in the back?" The clerk froze. Just for a second. Then he looked up and said, "It's the alarm battery. It does that sometimes." His voice was flat. Not annoyed, not concerned. Just flat. I nodded, though I didn't believe it. He rang me up. I paid in cash, thanked him, and walked out, still thinking about that soft beep. It didn't sound like any alarm I knew. Outside, the air was warm and still. I opened my car door, and that's when I realized something. My badge, my work ID, it was missing. I sighed. I'd probably left it on the counter when I pulled out my wallet. So I went back in. The moment I opened the door again, I knew something was wrong. The store was completely empty. No clerk behind the counter, no sound, no humming cooler. Just that soft beeping, now noticeably louder. "Hello?" I called out. My voice sounded too loud in the space. No answer. I stepped forward toward the register. The counter was bare. No book, no coffee cup, nothing. It was like no one had ever been there. The beeping continued, steady, mechanical, too consistent to be a dying smoke alarm. I moved toward the back, past the shelves of chips and pain relievers, toward where the sound was loudest. That's when I saw the door. It wasn't there before. A narrow wooden door, slightly ajar, wedged between two dusty shelving units. No exit sign, no markings, just there. The beep was coming from behind it. I shouldn't have gone in, but I did. The back room wasn't a storeroom, it was something else. It looked like abandoned office space, long, dim hallway, peeling floor tiles, exposed wiring hanging from the ceiling. I stepped inside slowly, every part of me screaming to turn around. Then I saw it. A folding chair in the middle of the hallway. On the chair sat a tablet. Its screen lit up as I approached. Words flashed across it in bold white letters. Recording. Motion detected. My mouth went dry. I looked down at the tablet. The screen showed a grainy black and white image of the store's front aisle. Live footage. From inside the store. Then a sound behind me. A footstep. I turned. The clerk was standing in the doorway. Still. Silent. "You shouldn't be back here," he said. I thought I left my badge," I stammered. "Didn't mean to." "It's not here," he said. I paused. "I didn't say I left it here. Just thought." He tilted his head. "Didn't you say you worked up the road?" I froze. "I never said that." He smiled. "Just barely. We watch the ones who come in late. It's safer that way." I backed away, my heart pounding, and I left. I drove fast. Didn't look back until I was halfway up Ridgetown Loop. No headlights behind me, no movement, nothing. When I got back to the office, the building was dark except for one thing. My desk light. It was on. I always turn it off. Always. I walked inside slowly. The air smelled faintly like the Shell station, old floor cleaner and dust. When I got to my cubicle, I saw it, my badge, sitting on the chair, where I'd left it hours ago. I never took it to the gas station, but somehow I had been sure I did. I stared at it for a long time. I don't know what I walked into that night. I don't think I ever will. Sometimes the quietest places hold the deepest unease. Trust your instincts when something feels off. Curiosity might open doors, but some doors were never meant to be opened. I started driving the empty highways at night like it was therapy. It wasn't about getting somewhere. It was about leaving somewhere. Ever since Evan walked out, I'd been back in my childhood bedroom, the walls closing in with stale air and old memories. Moving back in with Dad felt like a retreat from my life, not a fresh start. That's why I began these late-night drives. I didn't have a destination. I just drove until my gas tank dropped to half, then turned around and headed home. That Sunday night in March was no different. I slipped out around 8 after Dad was asleep, grabbed my coat and hit the road. The sky was clear, and the air smelled of damp earth. There's something in that still night that makes you feel small, like the world out there is endless and forgiving. I drove north on Route 92, past darkened farms and quiet cabins. The road wound through pines and faded byways. My playlist shuffled old folk songs I knew by heart. Somewhere around 9:30, my gas light flickered. I sighed. I should have filled up before leaving Dad's. Not wanting to risk running on fumes, I turned onto a side road and found the Greene County fuel stop. dusty glass, uneven tile, and dead neon. I parked and stepped out. The chilling hum of nighttime hush struck me full force. My phone showed 9:38 p.m. Inside, it felt like time had dug itself in there. The bell over the door jingled weakly, and the only employee was a pale kid in a hoodie, one earbud still in. The aisles were stacked with week-old sandwiches, dusty candy, packets of gum. I walked to the cooler for a soda I didn't need. I wasn't thirsty. I just wanted a reason to stay outside the house. That's when I noticed him. A man maybe mid-40s, tall and stiff, in a faded army jacket. He walked with a limp, favoring one side. I watched him drift through the aisles, never picking anything, like a ghost in half-memory. He seemed lost, but intentional. He paused in front of the hot dog roller, centered in the store. He just stared. My heart ticked up. Curiosity, dread, something primal tightening in my throat. I finished my soda, paid. The kid gave me a sideways look and said, "Don't let that guy bother you," and stepped outside. I didn't know why I didn't just leave. The parking lot was empty except my car and his hulking silhouette by the payphone. I stood next to my door, fidgeting with the keys. He didn't move. Eventually, I caught sight of the watch strapped to his wrist, an old, battered analog with a cracked face. I looked closer. The hands were stuck exactly at 9:38. My breath caught. I glanced at my phone. 9:38 p.m., as steady and precise as that broken watch. I felt cold. My hands trembled as I got inside, gas cap still open. The man didn't glance my way, but I could feel his eyes in my stomach. I slammed the door, locked it, and started pumping. Heart pounding, I tried to steady my breathing. I told myself he was just someone passing through. But his presence felt deliberate, predatory. I watched him. He didn't approach, he just watched, limping, staring, never blinking. And that watch. I finished pumping and threw the nozzle in. The man looked up then, for the first time. His eyes were empty and oddly knowing. I didn't need to ask what time it was in his head. I jumped in, locked the doors, and floored it out of that lot before the tile cracks had time to register. When I reached the highway again, my heart was still pounding. I replayed the image. Watch frozen at 9:38, limp, empty eyes. Why was he there? Who was he waiting for? My rear view never showed his sedan, but I could feel his presence at my back window sleepwalking along for miles. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that limp, shuffling gait and his watch caught in streetlight. Dad checked in at 2 a.m., knocking gently to ask about my shout when I locked myself in the bathroom. "I'm fine, Dad," I whispered, not trusting my voice. He left with that slow groan of someone too old to argue late-night sets. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, mind drumming back to that gas station. I didn't know what bothered me more, his watch stuck at 9:38, or how he stood by that phone that hadn't worked in years. By dawn, sunlight felt obscene. I forced myself up, had coffee with Dad, didn't speak of the night. I threw on clean clothes and headed to a coffee shop, hoping daylight would unravel the knots. But shadows lengthened in my mind even as the sun climbed. That night, Dad woke me around 2. He was holding my phone like someone holding a grenade. "There's a voicemail," he said softly. I shook. I had no voice. I grabbed it, thumb hovering. The timestamp, 9:38 p.m. I punched play. First, crackling static. Then, quick, ragged breaths. Then a low, warped whisper. "You shouldn't watch the time so closely. It's watching you back." My skin curdled. Dad let me sit there, eyes wide, heart pounding. Is that from last night?" I choked. "It's from 9:38, he said. I burst into tears, the weight of it flooding everything. The watch, the limp, the voicemail. It wasn't a prank. It was someone watching me, someone who synced with that warped hour. I haven't driven down Route 92 at night since. I still feel his gaze behind my eyes. The clock on the stove. It stays clean now. I refuse to glance when it passes 9:38 p.m. Moments feel like traps. I never dial a voicemail. I don't leave the lights off after dark. Dad and I joke I've flipped my life upside down because of one watch, a man in a filthy jacket, and some warped message. Part of me wonders if I made it all up. But when your phone shows voicemail 9:38 p.m. and your gut says something unnamed just walked right into your veins, you know. I learned something sharp in that moment. Sometimes aren't just measurements. Some hours are crossroads. And some people are waiting in those minutes, ready to show you the hour that never moves. Time is more than numbers on a dial. It can be a trap, a marker, a warning. Pay attention to what holds still in your life, especially when everything else seems to move. Don't ignore that whisper of unease. You never know who's watching when the clock stops. They say when you hit rock bottom, you'll know it. For me, it wasn't the divorce or the detox shakes. It wasn't the night I curled up in the backseat of my Civic with 3 unpaid parking tickets and an eviction notice crumpled in my glove box. No, the real bottom came after I started climbing back up. I was 2 months sober when I took the graveyard shift at Maple Cross Gas Deli on the edge of Columbus. It was the kind of place you didn't notice unless your tank was low and nowhere else was open. 3 pumps. 1 flickering open sign. A deli counter we kept mostly for show. The guy before me quit mid-shift after someone threw up in the beer cooler and didn't apologize. I figured I could handle it. I parked my car behind the dumpster where the cameras couldn't see. Slept there most nights. Told my manager I was staying with a cousin out in Groveport. He didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer answers. All I had to do was keep the coffee hot, restock the jerky shelf, and not fall apart before sunrise. Easy enough. But then came pump 3. At first I thought nothing of it. A white SUV pulled up around 2 a.m. Early April, still cold enough to see your breath but warm enough for idiots to start driving around barefoot again. The SUV didn't gas up, didn't idle for long, just sat there, lights on, engine purring like a dog waiting at the door. I gave it maybe 10 minutes before shrugging it off. Maybe he was checking GPS, maybe texting someone. You learn not to ask too many questions in this line of work. People want gas, smokes, and silence. But the next night he came back. Same time, same pump, same nothing. By the 5th time, my gut started knotting up the second those headlights painted across the windows, and it was always pump 3, never 1 or 2, always that spot, close enough to the building to see me, not close enough to talk. I told myself I was being dramatic. My sponsor always said, then facts. Still, one night around 2:10, I walked outside and called him out. April, your brain likes stories more. Can I help you with something? I said, arms crossed, heart punching the inside of my ribs. The window rolled halfway down. No music, no movement. Just this pale guy with a blank stare and short-cropped hair. Maybe early 40s. No facial hair, no scent of booze, no twitch of emotion. You're not supposed to be here tonight, he said. Then rolled the window back up. I don't scare easy. Not anymore. But that night I went back inside and locked the door. I watched the cameras until sunrise. I didn't breathe easy until the sun scraped over the tree line. When I told my manager the next day, he shrugged. Maybe he's waiting for someone, he said. Maybe he's lost. Weirdos pass through here all the time. I called the non-emergency line. A cruiser rolled by 2 hours later. The guy was long gone. The officer checked the footage, but we didn't have much. Just headlights and silence. No plate, no decals, no reason. You sure he didn't say anything threatening? The cop asked, hand resting on his belt like that made him smarter. He said I wasn't supposed to be here. He snorted. Maybe you weren't. The man didn't come back for 3 days, just long enough for me to start thinking I'd overreacted. I busied myself cleaning shelves, mopping floors, talking too long with the nurses who stopped in for coffee on their way to night shifts. I even started feeling okay again. The kind of okay where you forget your car is your home and your life's being held together by duct tape and AA slogans. Then, at exactly 2:03 a.m., he returned. I was counting singles at the register when the headlights slid across the glass again. But this time he didn't stay in the car. I stood still, watched through the window as he stepped out, one hand in his jacket pocket, the other hanging loose. He didn't look at me, just turned slowly toward the air pump at the far corner of the lot. Not the building, not pump 3. The air pump. He walked like a man who had a job to do, bent down, unscrewed something, just stayed crouched there for what felt like forever. I checked the time. He stayed exactly 17 minutes. Then he got up, walked back to the SUV, drove off. I watched every second on the security camera feed, except the system glitched. Again. There was a flicker. Just one frame between 2:18 and 2:19, and in that frame, his face didn't look right. Not scary, just off. Like when a video buffer skips and it freezes mid-motion, and the face gets smeared into something too wide, too distorted. I told myself it was a compression error, cheap cameras, dust in the lens. But then, at 6:35 a.m., a guy in his 20s came to refill his tires. Honda Civic, loud muffler, ball cap on backward. I heard the boom before I saw it. Tire burst, screamed like a damn cannon. The guy dropped. I ran out, phone already dialing 911. His hand, his entire left palm, was shredded. Blood streaked across the blacktop like red chalk. At the hospital, they said he'd lose 2 fingers. Later that day, I checked the pump myself. The valve had been cross-threaded, just enough to build pressure, slowly, until it failed catastrophically. It wasn't accidental. Someone did it on purpose. The police came, took a report, asked me if I'd seen anyone tampering with the equipment. I showed them the glitchy footage. They said it looked tampered with. They didn't mean the air valve, they meant the video. I tried to argue, told them it was just a bad frame, showed them the timestamps. They didn't care. "You work alone at night," one officer said. "Sleep deprivation can play tricks on the mind." The next night I found the sticky note. It was folded and tucked right under the register monitor, where I would have to see it. Written in my own handwriting. "You didn't stop him. It's still yours to carry." I don't remember writing it, but it was mine. No doubt. The looped A in carry, the sharp cross on the T in stop. All mine. I didn't know what to make of it. I checked the cameras again. There was no pump 3. The label on the feed had changed. I hadn't updated anything. Nobody else had access to the system. But there it was, plain as day. April, repeating. I started unraveling. Didn't drink. Didn't touch a pill. But something in me cracked open like a hairline fracture in glass finally giving way. I was afraid to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the hiss of leaking air. Saw that distorted face. Woke up gasping in the front seat of my Civic, drenched in sweat, the smell of deli meats and bleach clinging to my coat. I called my sponsor, left a voicemail. Didn't say much, just that I was scared and tired and didn't know what was real anymore. No callback. I tried quitting the job, but I couldn't afford to walk away. I needed the paycheck. I needed the parking lot. I needed the illusion that I was still part of something normal. 3 nights later, I sat behind the counter watching the door. I didn't blink. I didn't look away. At 2:03 a.m., nothing happened. No SUV, no headlights. But the pump feed flickered. And then, I swear to God, the display changed again. April, watching. I lasted 4 more days. Then I put in my notice, packed up my stuff and drove. No map, no plan, just asphalt and instinct. I ended up 2 towns over, sleeping behind a different gas station, doing odd shifts at a 24-hour diner until I could scrape together enough to rent a room. I changed my number, deleted my old email, cut ties with the past one thread at a time. Sometimes I still think about that man, the way he moved, the way he said I wasn't supposed to be there, like he knew something I didn't. Maybe it was a warning, maybe a curse, maybe he was right. But what haunts me most isn't the SUV or the pump or the glitchy footage. It's the feeling that I'm still carrying it, whatever it was. Every time I pass an air pump, I slow down. Every time I work alone at night, I check for sticky notes. And every time I see my reflection, I wonder if it's still me. The quietest traumas are the ones we're told not to believe. The scariest things aren't monsters. They're the moments when reality slips, when we realize no one else is watching, and we're left holding something we never asked for. Pain, responsibility, memory. Some burdens aren't yours to carry forever, but you'll still carry them until you choose to set them down. I used to love the quiet. The graveyard shift at Sunoco wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Just me, an empty parking lot, and a beat-up radio tuned to old detective dramas no one under 30 remembered. I stocked shelves, counted scratch-offs, and sipped gas station coffee that always tasted a little like burnt toast. I liked it that way. Familiar. Still. My name's Noah Darby. I'm 26 now, but for a while, I felt stuck at 25. That's the age my twin brother Nate died. Car accident on the West Bypass May 3rd last year. Hydroplaned and hit a tree. I was supposed to be with him that night, but I picked up a shift. He always gave me hell for working too much. Now I'd give anything for one more argument. I live in a rented room above the laundromat 2 doors down from the station. It's not much. One window, a hot plate, and a mattress thin enough to see the springs, but it's cheap and close to work. That's all I needed, until last month. It started subtle. April 30th, just past midnight. A customer came in, tall guy with a busted denim jacket and 2 Monster energy drinks in hand. He smiled and said, "Bet I'm your most exciting visitor tonight, huh?" Same dry laugh, same exact pause. Nothing unusual, except he came in again 30 minutes later, wearing the same jacket, holding the same drinks, saying the same line, like a movie looped and nobody told the actors. At first I blamed exhaustion. Sleep's been weird since Nate died. Some nights I'd sit on the floor of my room, watching laundry spin downstairs through the vent. I started journaling every shift, thinking I could catch the patterns. That maybe I was misremembering things. Maybe grief really does play tricks. But then the cameras started reversing themselves. Between 12:10 and 1:10 a.m. every night, the security feeds would stutter. Then for exactly 4 minutes and 14 seconds they'd play backward. Not glitchy, not scrambled, just reverse. Like time itself rewound, neat and clean. When I tried to rewind the footage later, it skipped that window like it never existed. Then came the delivery truck. White van. No markings except for duct tape stretched across the back doors spelling a single word. Again. It pulled in at 12:42 a.m., idled for 6 minutes, then left. No delivery, no log, no driver visible, just engine noise and silence. I called the supplier the next morning, still hoping it was just some weird drop-off mistake. They told me, "We don't run overnight routes anymore, not out there." I didn't argue. I hung up, then I checked the footage again. This time, when I stepped outside to confront the van, I blinked, and I was suddenly back behind the register, watching the van leave on the screen. I never remembered walking back. That was the night I stopped pretending I was fine. After the van incident, I tried to act normal. Stocked the fridge, cleaned the coffee machine, smiled at customers. But I kept seeing things repeat. Not just people, but whole conversations. A woman named Janine, regular since January, came in for her usual. Menthols and a cherry soda. She looked at me like I was made of glass. "I've already asked you this," she said quietly, setting the items down. "Counter, same gum display behind you." "Right here." "Same," I laughed, trying to play it off. "Well, maybe we're just creatures of habit." "No," she said, voice flat. "You said that last time too." I didn't know what to say. She grabbed her change, stared at me, and whispered, "Noah, whatever happened last year, it doesn't think you should have survived. You're stuck, She left without another word. After that, the weirdness got worse. The gas pump alarm started beeping in the middle of the night, single short bursts like someone had lifted the nozzle. But when I looked outside, the pumps were empty. Every time. One night, all the pumps shut off at once. 12:13 a.m., I went outside to check, and the air felt thick like it was pressing down on me. No wind, no sound. Then pump 2 lit up. Beep. Then pump 4. Beep. Pump 7. Beep. Pump 3. Beep. I stared at the numbers and felt my spine go ice cold. It was Nate's birthday. 2473. I don't know how long I stood there, just looking. I finally went back inside and locked the doors. My hands were shaking so bad I knocked over the candy display. The next morning I checked the transaction records. Nothing was logged during that hour, like the store didn't exist. The repetition got tighter. Timestamps on receipts started printing with the wrong date, always 1 year behind. May 2022. I flipped open my logbook and compared notes. The same customers, same sequence, even the same weather. It was like the entire night had been taped over with a copy of itself from last year. Then, one night, the radio slipped into an ad for a pizza place that had closed 8 months ago. I blinked, and the register screen reset itself to the old POS interface we'd replaced last July. The inventory system rebooted. The freezer started humming louder than usual. And that's when I saw him. In the glass door of the freezer aisle, behind the rows of ice cream and TV dinners, I saw Nate, not his body, not a vision, his reflection, waving. His face was covered in frost like he was inside the glass, like he'd been watching this whole time, smiling, not scared, just there. I stumbled back, hit my head on the cooler rack. When I looked again, the glass was fogged, no reflection, nothing. I checked the calendar on the wall behind me. May 3rd, 2022, the day he died. That night broke something in me. I sat behind the counter with the lights off, just watching the monitor, trying to will something else to happen, hoping maybe I could change it, or stop it, or at least understand it. At 12:42 a.m., the van returned. It didn't idle this time. It didn't beep. It just parked. No driver. I walked outside again, slow this time, letting my breath fog in front of me. The back doors were open. Inside, nothing but a mirror. A full-length pane of glass bolted to the frame. I looked in, expecting to see myself. But it was Nate. This time he wasn't smiling. He looked tired. He looked at me and mouthed something. "You weren't supposed to take my place." Then I blinked, and I was back inside. Counter reset. Timestamp 12:03 a.m. I don't work there anymore. I quit 2 weeks ago after my manager found me on the floor of the walk-in cooler, clutching a sticky note I didn't remember writing. It just said, "Stay out of the loop." He told me I was burnt out, said I needed time off, maybe a vacation. I laughed in his face and left. The next day, I found something in my coat pocket. Nate's hospital wristband. Still stained, still warm. I don't know what's real anymore, but I know I lived, and he didn't. And I've been living like I wasn't supposed to. Sometimes I think the nights still rewind, just without me. Maybe someone else is stuck now. I hope they find a way out. Some grief doesn't fade. It loops. We carry our guilt like echoes, replaying the moments we wish we could change. But reliving the past doesn't fix it. It just traps us there. The only way forward is through the pain. Not around it, not behind it. And only by accepting we survived even when we wish we hadn't can we start living again. You don't really know what silence sounds like until you're left alone with a dryer full of jeans spinning at 2:37 in the morning. That's what Cedar Spin Laundromat gave me. Noise without voices, light without warmth, routine without questions. After the breakup, I moved back to my hometown. Not because I wanted to, but because I had nowhere else to go. Rent in St. Louis was a joke. and freelance graphic design doesn't exactly scream job security when your whole life falls apart. So I ended up in the spare bedroom at my dad's old place. He passed 4 years ago. The house still smells like his coffee and dust. The laundromat became my place. Not because I liked laundry, who does, but because I couldn't sleep. I tried meds, I tried no caffeine. I even tried that thing where you put your phone in a different room. Nothing stuck. But Cedar Spin had its rhythm. Machines humming, doors clicking shut. The buzz of fluorescence that stayed on no matter how tired they got. It was something to hold on to. But then, in early October, something changed. That night I got there a little later than usual, maybe 2:35. The place was empty. Typical. I carried my basket in, picked my usual machine, the 6 front row, and started sorting whites. That's when I noticed the man. He was standing just outside the glass door, still, watching. I thought maybe he was drunk or waiting for someone, except he didn't move, didn't shift weight, didn't blink, just stood there. 5 minutes, easy. I looked away for a second. When I looked back, he was gone. I never heard the door open, never heard it shut. I tried to shake it off. Maybe he left and I missed it. But when I turned toward the detergent machine, I glanced up at the corner monitor, and that's when I saw it. I was already inside. Same red hoodie, same black leggings, same green phone case propped on the table beside me. On screen, I was sitting in folding chair number 3. I watched myself look up and, God, I was staring back. I turned around. The chair was empty. The screen still showed me sitting there. I left my basket behind and walked out into the cool October air, my breath visible, my heart sprinting. I told myself I was tired. Maybe I saw an old recording. Maybe the monitor glitched. But deep down, I didn't believe that, because she looked right at me. I didn't go back for a few days. Did my laundry at home in the old sink and tried to forget the whole thing. I was good at convincing myself something didn't happen. It's practically a survival skill at this point. But insomnia doesn't care how badly you want to forget. After 3 nights of pacing the living room at 4 a.m., I caved. Back to Cedar Spin. Same hum, same light, same sense of detachment, and again, same glitch. This time I entered just after 2:30. I walked toward the far aisle, planning to use a different machine, to keep things fresh. I glanced up at the monitor. There I was. Corner camera number 4, high and angled, caught me in real time, or what I thought was real time. But I wasn't just walking. I was already loading machine number 9. I paused, staring. The version of me on screen reached into her basket and grabbed the next pair of jeans. I looked down. I was still holding that pair. I hadn't moved yet. I stood frozen. Then the screen me looked up, again, and met my eyes, just a second too early. I dropped the clothes and walked straight back to the car. Didn't even shut the machine lid. I called Cody, my best friend since 7th grade. He answered half asleep, voice groggy and annoyed. "You already told me this, Rach," he mumbled. "What?" "This laundromat thing. The double. The weird footage. You said it last week." My stomach dropped. "Cody, I didn't." "You did." He hung up before I could press him. My fingers were shaking when I set the phone down, and when I looked in my rearview mirror to back out, there was a sticky note on it. "Stop using my machines." The worst part wasn't that it was happening. The worst part was realizing it wasn't new. I started digging through my texts, emails, voicemails, nothing explicit. But a few nights earlier, I'd sent Cody a blurry photo of the laundromat monitor. No context. Timestamp, 2:44 a.m. I didn't even remember taking it. My anxiety made sleep impossible now. Not that I was sleeping well before, but now even rest felt suspect. I was terrified I'd close my eyes and wake up not knowing if I was the real one. The next morning, I went back during daylight. Mrs. Klein was there, gray hair tied up, hands in a crosswords book, old radio humming some song from the 60s. I asked her if anything was wrong with the camera system. She didn't even look up, just said, "You know that's not you, right?" I paused. "Excuse me?" She flipped the page in her puzzle book. "The woman on the monitor. That's not you. She's been here every night this week." I laughed nervously, hoping she'd laugh back. She didn't. "I'm the only one here at night," I said. "No," she said flatly. "Do. You're not. I check the tapes every morning. That girl gets here before you." I left without saying another word. The next night I didn't bring laundry. I brought a camera. I set it to record the corner monitor from table number 2, where I could get the clearest angle. I hit record and sat in chair number 3. At exactly 2:37 a.m., the other me appeared on screen. Sitting in the same chair, but already seated. She raised her hand, held up 3 fingers. I blinked. 1 minute later, the real me, raised my hand without thinking. 3 fingers, like I was following a script I hadn't read. I was spiraling. I stopped leaving the house after dark. I started talking less. Avoided mirrors. Avoided Cody. Started recording voice memos to myself. "This is real. You are here. This is today's date." I'd play them back in the morning just to reassure myself I hadn't split. One night I drove to the laundromat and didn't go in. I just parked, watched through the glass, waited. At 2:34 a.m. the automatic doors opened. No one stepped through. But inside, a load began spinning in machine number 6. It wasn't me. I went in, slow and shaking, expecting something, anything. It was empty, no baskets, no shoes. Just that one machine running a full load halfway through the cycle. Warm. I reached for the handle to stop it, and my reflection in the glass didn't move. It stared at me. Same eyes, same scar on the right cheek. But it didn't follow. Then, slowly, its head tilted, just a beat behind mine. That's when I realized it wasn't copying me. I was copying it. I don't go back to Cedar Spin anymore. I left town 3 days after that last night. Packed my laptop, canceled my freelance contracts, turned off my phone. I rented a cabin outside Hannibal. No security cameras, no mirrors. I tell myself I'm safe here, but I still cover the bathroom mirror with a towel, just in case. I've started dreaming about her. The other me. The one who never left. The one who always got there first. And in the dream, she's folding laundry that isn't mine. Sometimes I think about that sticky note. Stop using my machines. But here's the thing. What if I was the one who stole her place? What if I was the version that wasn't supposed to stay? What if I'm already inside? When your mind is stretched thin, reality can ripple. And in those cracks, the things we bury try to come back. Not all doubles are haunting us. Sometimes they're trying to take back what we borrowed without knowing. Know yourself. Anchor yourself. Because if you don't, something else will. I've driven over 1,000,000 miles, but nothing rattles me like the half-rest stop at Pine Valley Fuel on Route 219, West Virginia. It's the halfway mark between my ex-wife's place in Ohio and the empty room that's become home. I pull in around midnight most nights, stagger into the bathroom, wash my hands, and grab a coffee before I roll on. The lights are always bright, the sinks clean, custodial staff gone by evening, perfectly predictable. Except that night in March at exactly 11:58 p.m. something felt wrong. When I shut the stall door, the lights went full black for a second, then flipped to a dim reddish glow above the mirror. Backup lighting. I've seen flickers before. It's an old place, but this was different. Lower, more ominous. Then came the sound. Scrape. Scrape. Not regular footsteps, more like something heavy dragged across tile. I froze, heart banging, eyes fixed on the gap beneath the door. The flickering light threw my reflection off the wall like a horror show. Then, they locked it again. Not my voice. Barely more than a whisper, but distinct. From the adjacent stall. I leaned over, careful not to make too much noise. Excuse me? No answer. Then, they lock it after midnight. You shouldn't have come in. That nailed me in place. Locked. I thought maybe it was a prank station staff pulled. Juvenile, sure, but something to scoff at. So I cocked my head, listened harder. No footsteps. 2 stalls down, tiles still. Nothing. I crouched to peek under the divider. No feet, no legs, just polished concrete. My pulse redlined. I slammed my palm against the door frame. Doors jammed. Hello? Someone there? The silence. From the hallway, the muted hum of the gas station radio, static slathered country music. The station never played that late, but tonight it did. Then I saw it, a carving on the wood panel behind the toilet, letters jagged and deep. You can scream. The night staff doesn't check anymore. It was fresh, still dark from whatever ink or burns carved it. Cold sweat burst down my neck. My phone's flashlight blinked on, but the camera wouldn't start. I fumbled, opened voice memo, started talking. Travis Heller, March 18th, Pine Valley fuel stop off Route 219. The app saved it under a new recording labeled with a date from 6 days ago. March 12th. My voice startled me. I hadn't made that earlier. I hit record again. Same thing. Each attempt backed me deeper into panic. I kicked the stall door, tried the vent above. Nothing. But then, soft from the other stall, Travis. Simple. Unmistakable. My breath betrayed me. I hadn't said my own name. I fumbled, searched redial on 911, voice shaking, phone connected. Then I heard it. My echo. My voice at a calmer pitch. Excuse me, it said. They lock it after midnight. It repeated my conversation from earlier, over and over, chopped, warped, wrong. The knob gave. Door swung open into blankness. The reddened lights had gone, replaced by sickly yellow overhead bulbs. When I stumbled out, heart pounding, the station looked older, as if the past decade peeled off in a single flash. Paint was flat, cracked. Coffee machine behind the counter missing. Even the soda cooler gone. I looked up at the cashier, a woman with silver hair, pale eyes, humming under her breath. Men's room's broken, she said without looking. No warmth. What? I croaked. Out of order all week, she replied, voice distant. Don't worry about it. I backed outside, slammed into my truck and floored the engine. Morning light meant nothing. I drove past mile markers like they didn't exist, just to escape the nightmare. One thing kept nagging. I couldn't shake back. The glimpse into another version of the bathroom. Everything felt different. At sunrise, I turned around and headed back. What if it was a severe stress glitch? Maybe my head had fractured from constant road miles and panic episodes. I parked in the lot, stepped inside. Everything looked normal. Bright lights, sparkling sinks, fresh paint. The cashier was middle-aged, chipper, soda machine humming. The place felt newer. I paused in front of the restrooms, felt my pulse in my throat. My mouth went dry. I approached the door, hand hovering. Suddenly the door read, "Do not use after midnight. Door locks automatically." Below it, a smaller sign. Last incident, Travis Heller, March 2021. March 2021. That's a year ago. I stumbled back, stared dumbfounded. My mind reeled. I didn't remember telling anyone my name, but somehow I'd made it into station policy. Maybe I was nuts, but policy documents aren't jokes. The cashier noticed me staring. "Someone pulled a prank," she said, not unkindly. Never mind. I backed out, stomach dropping, feet shaking. I drove off again, slower this time, replaying everything. The sign didn't say 2022. It said 2021, a full year ago. Did I somehow cause an incident a year earlier? I don't remember a year ago. I was driving plenty then. But that kind of memory, imprisoned by the station sign, felt like rust eating bone. Days crawled by. My panic attacks stopped being occasional. They became daily, I couldn't drive long distances. The next night, I pulled over in Somersville instead, 3 hours away just to feel safe. But my phone buzzed. My voice memo app had a new recording. It was me, speaking, calm. They lock it after midnight. My voice, timestamp, a year ago, 2021, exact time, 11:58 p.m. That changed everything. My blood went cold. I listened over and over. It was definitely me. Not tired voice, not road voice, my normal tone, unaffected. But I don't remember ever stopping at Pine Valley in March 2021. Not that I recall. I just can't place it. I reached out to a local friend in Elkins. He's a volunteer firefighter. I asked him to swing by the station and look at the sign. A couple of hours later, he texted me. Sign still says Travis Heller, Mar 2021. Men's room locked after midnight. No record of another incident. End message. That couldn't be a joke. Nobody calls a random trucker by name on policy signs for a prank. Every long-haul run since then, my seatbelt cuts into me like a noose. I keep my phone on speaker with GPS tracking so someone, anyone, can locate me if I don't check in. I crackers, but I'm done. Last week, I slept in an alien motel in Kentucky off I-75. It cost $40, but at least the walls didn't bleed panic. I thought maybe distance would numb the recall. But no. I still wake up at 11:58 p.m., sweat fogging my eyes, something scratching across tiles, someone whispering my name. It's like my mind refuses to let me sleep at that exact second. I called my therapist. She reminded me of my divorce, my suppressed panic, long hours, familial guilt. Maybe it was a traumatic hallucination, PTSD, reset memory glitch. This she accepts. But when I brought up the station sign, that weird recording date, the restroom policy, her voice clipped. There's more going on, she said softly. Stay away. I can't diagnose on station haunting, but you need to stay away. I tried, but it's worse now. Every time I shut my eyes, I see that red light flicker in my mind. I can almost taste the stale bathroom air, hear the whisper in my head. They lock it after midnight. What haunts me isn't ghosts. It's doubt. Did I do something? Was I someone? Did I experience something so real I altered the place? Or myself? Did I ever leave? I haven't returned. I've traded long-haul drives for regional jobs, daytime runs, no bathroom stops after dark. My panic's less frequent, but the memory still smolders. At night, I sit in my apartment off Wheeling WV, staring at the wall clock. I stop breathing at 11:58 p.m. every time. I've been trying to piece things together, dates, records, dispatch logs. March 2021, I was working a solo run, no notable events. But I have gaps. Fatigue, rain, detours, truckers and bars, all mixed memories, no real registers of being at Pine Valley. Last night, I watched the security footage from the station online. Public camera, exterior. Truck pulls in at 11:55 p.m. on March 18, 2021. Door opens, lights flicker, then blank for 4 minutes. Then the driver steps out alone, runs to bathroom, re-emerges, and speeds off. That could be me, but I never stopped. At least, I didn't think I did. I don't know if I'm haunted. I don't know if I locked the door behind someone else. I don't know if I was the victim or the victimizer. All I know is that place changed me. We carry shadows from moments we don't fully remember, and sometimes our own memory becomes the monster. Trauma doesn't always mark itself with blood or screams. Often it hides in gaps, flickers in a memory, policy signs we forgot we inspired. The hardest part isn't surviving the experience. It's forgiving ourselves for what we did, what we might have been when we weren't looking. And sometimes staying away isn't surrender, it's survival. You don't really notice the passage of time until you're packing up a life you thought would last forever. That's what brought me to Iron Gate Self-Storage outside Rapid City. After my divorce was finalized in May, I started boxing up everything that still had some value. Mostly furniture, dusty wedding gifts, vinyl records I never liked but couldn't throw out. My old house echoed after I emptied the rooms. Felt more like a museum than a home. I didn't know where I was headed next, so the storage unit was my pause button. Iron Gate was quiet, clean, tucked along a frontage road with wheat fields on one side and a used RV lot on the other. I liked that no one was ever really there. I could pull up to my unit, punch in my code, and spend an hour sorting my past without anyone asking how I was doing. That first week, I noticed the unit directly across from mine, number 41, was always a little open. Not a wide swing, just cracked, like someone had been there and forgot to close it or maybe didn't want it completely shut. No big deal. I figured someone was coming and going just like me. But it started changing. The door wasn't always cracked the same way. One evening it was open enough for me to see plastic sheeting inside, hung like a cheap shower curtain. A few days later, the door was almost shut again, then back open, then all the way. Always that same freezer in the middle, an old thing with chipped white paint, the kind you'd find in a 1970s garage, and always plugged in. That's what really started bugging me. There weren't any outlets in these units. I knew because I'd tried to charge my phone once during a long day of sorting and realized I had to sit in the car with the ignition on. So how the hell was a freezer plugged in? The next time I came in, I stopped by the small front office. A woman in a pink fleece vest and horn-rimmed glasses sat behind a plexiglass divider. I asked about Unit 41. "Probably corporate overflow," she said, not even glancing at the screen in front of her. "Then how's it powered?" She looked up. "What do you mean?" "The freezer inside. It's humming. Cold. Lights on." She paused, eyes narrowing. "Code. There aren't any working outlets in those units. That's against fire." I just stared at her. She stared back. Then she smiled, one of those flat, end the conversation smiles, and said, "I'm sure it's nothing. Sometimes folks hook up their own batteries. Just make sure your gate code stays current." I left, but that night, I drove back. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe I just didn't want to sit alone in my new apartment with all its freshly painted beige walls and the smell of someone else's past. I had forgotten a sanding tool, or maybe I just told myself that. The parking lot was empty, crickets humming, and then I heard it. A children's song, slow, warped. "The more we get together, together, together," coming from inside Unit 41. My keys were already in my hand when I heard the whisper, "You forgot something." I turned so fast I nearly dropped them. No one was behind me. I looked across the lot, toward the gate, deserted, still dusk, that soft blue fading into night. Then I saw it, in my own unit, propped against the cinder block wall where I'd been storing crates of books and broken chairs. A wooden rocking horse. It hadn't been there earlier, I swear on my life. Its paint was chipped, the mane mostly worn off. I walked slowly toward it, something in my chest tightening. I hadn't seen that horse in nearly 30 years. My foster home. 1996. I was 6. Delaney's room, 1996. Scratched into the base. I ran my hand over it. The horse had been confiscated after something happened, something I never talked about. CPS said it was unsanitary, dangerous. But I remembered it clearly. That rocking horse was the only thing in that house that ever felt like mine. I remember clutching its handle when I couldn't sleep. I remember the way it used to creak like it was sighing. And now here it was, in my storage unit. I backed out slowly, never taking my eyes off it. My heart was hammering so loud it filled my ears. I locked my unit, got in my car, and drove straight to the gate. It didn't open. The keypad lit up, beeped like it always did, but the gate stayed closed. I tried again, and again. I even called the office number listed on the wall. No answer, not even voicemail. And then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message read, "I kept it safe for you. Come back." My breath caught. My fingers trembled. I didn't answer. I threw the car into reverse and floored it, skidding backward and waiting until, by sheer luck, another vehicle approached and their code triggered the gate. I tailgated them through just in time, scraping my side mirror against the post. I didn't sleep that night, didn't unpack, didn't breathe right. I just kept thinking about that whisper. You forgot something. 2 days passed before I dared look up Iron Gate's website. I didn't want to see it, but I had to. I needed to know. I clicked through their site, found the map of units. 40. Exactly 40. Mine was Unit 17, directly across from a concrete wall. No mention of a Unit 41, no placeholder, no blank spot. I zoomed in. I cross-checked satellite view. There was a strip of shadow along the far edge of the property where my unit faced, but no doorway. No structure marked, just asphalt and wall. I called the office again. This time someone answered. A man. Deep voice. Polite. Generic. "There's no Unit 41, he said after I asked. "Are you sure you're not mistaken?" "No," I snapped. "It's across from mine. It's got a freezer in it." He hesitated. "From you." "Ma'am, you're Unit 17. 17 faces the back wall. There's no unit across. I've been looking at it for weeks." More silence. Then he said something that made me go cold. "I've worked here 7 years. There's no such unit, not even an old one." I hung up. I should have let it go, should have moved on. But instead, 1 week later, I drove back. I didn't get out. I just pulled up to the gate and parked across the road. Through the chain-link fence, beyond the rows of identical beige doors, I saw it. A metal door, wide, unmarked. Unit 41, slightly open. I started dreaming about it. Not just Unit 41, but the horse, the song, the freezer. Dreams where I was a child again, standing barefoot in that cold foster home, watching the walls pulse like lungs. Sometimes I'd hear my name whispered from behind closet doors. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps in the attic. Footsteps no one else ever heard. Memories I'd pushed so far down, they'd become stories I told myself weren't real. But now, I was sure of one thing. Something was stored in Unit 41 that didn't belong in this world. Something waiting. I talked to a friend in town, a contractor who once worked on Iron Gate years ago. He told me something odd. During construction, the blueprints had been altered. There was a wall that didn't make sense, a segment longer on the inside than the outside. They joked it was dead space, the kind of thing that happens when a building gets rezoned halfway through. I asked him, could someone hide a unit there? Like a whole room? He laughed. Sure. But why? I didn't answer. The next day I went to the county clerk's office. I asked for zoning records for Iron Gate self-storage. The clerk typed for a while, frowned. That facility only filed permits for 40 enclosed units. I pointed at the address on the screen. Can I see the plans? She slid them over. Sure enough, units 1 through 40. No mention of 41. And yet, on the original architect's sketch, faint pencil marks showed a rectangular space opposite Unit 17. A scratched-out number, faded. Maybe a 4, maybe a 1. I didn't sleep that night either. I knew I had to go back. One last time. I waited until early evening. I parked across the road, walked through the broken section of fence I'd spotted days earlier. No cameras facing this way, no one around. I crossed the lot, past my old unit, heart pounding. I could already hear it, the freezer humming, the faintest echo of that children's song. I turned. Unit 41. The door, as always, was ajar. I reached out and pulled it open. Inside, the same plastic sheeting, same freezer. But this time on the floor, a series of items lined up in a neat row. My old wristwatch from 3rd grade, a photograph of me holding a birthday cake with no candles, a sock puppet I hadn't seen since I was 7, my whole life. the parts no one should have had. On the wall, above it all, written in smeared red marker, Delaney's room, forever. I backed out, tears in my eyes, throat tight. I ran, didn't look back. I never told anyone after that. I left South Dakota, moved closer to my sister, gave up antique work. I just couldn't be around the past anymore. But every once in a while, I'll be driving past some forgotten storage lot or abandoned facility and I'll glance over. And I swear I'll see it. Unit 41. Slightly open. Some places are built to hold forgotten things. Broken furniture, dusty memories, old regrets. But not all memories want to stay forgotten. And not all doors should be opened. Some storage units don't hold your past. They hold you. I moved back home after dropping out of college, thinking I'd reclaim some part of who I was. Instead, I ended up at Ridge Hill Market. Night shift, no student loans, no direction. My days blurred into aisles of Cheerios and dented tomatoes. But I liked the quiet nights. After my high school reunion in spring, I realized I didn't want to be the same girl I was in Flagstaff. So here I was, 22, wiping down the second register, humming old Billy Joel tunes while the hum of the fridges drowned out my doubts. Tom, the manager, usually left by 8. That gave me time alone with the empty store. The security guard, Carlos, parked outside, scrolling through his phone. I never saw him get out. Nights were routine. 2 or 3 regulars, scanned groceries, small talk, bags at 9:25 p.m., then back to cleaning, stocking, and counting down the hours. Not glamorous, but steady. I started at 5 p.m. that evening. Humming, cleaning, greeting the occasional customer. The lights buzzed overhead. The freezers hummed behind glass. Nothing out of place. I was halfway through a mop cycle when the bell above the door tingled. I stopped mid-swipe and looked across the store. A man in a tan jacket and ball cap walked in. No basket, no cart, nothing. He didn't browse. He headed straight for register 2, where I was wiping the counter. He stopped 6 feet away and waited. I forced a smile. "Evening," I said. "Need help finding?" No response. He didn't even glance my way. He stared at the security mirror behind me, framed by dusty fluorescent bulbs. Then he shifted, just enough for me to see a bulge under his jacket. My heart raced. I slapped the mop in a bucket, dropped it, and faced him. "Can I help you?" He shrugged, reached into his pocket, pulled out a crumpled grocery bag. My mind froze. He spoke, voice low and steady. "Put everything in, and don't touch the buttons." He kept his gaze locked on the entrance. Did he expect someone? I unlatched the drawer and started emptying it. Bills, coins, credit vouchers, shaking so badly the register keys tapped back. "Now," he said, louder, but still calm. I dropped everything into the bag. My bills spilled to the floor. He ignored them, hands shaking. I shut the drawer. He made no move to leave. The store felt paused. Buzzing lights, humming refrigerators, none of it making sense. I spotted the emergency alarm under the counter, but his eyes were locked on the mirror and door. I couldn't risk it. Not yet. Finally, he stepped closer, leaned in, far too close, and whispered, "Supposed to be on tonight. You're lucky. You weren't." Then he walked out, empty-handed, slow. The bell tinkled. He didn't look back. I didn't breathe until it faded. I was shaking when Carlos climbed into the store. He hadn't gotten out of the car to confront the man. He just saw him leave. Register ran out of paper. I managed. Weird. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I dusted the counter like it would fix everything. I wiped my hands in front of me. "I'll close up early, aren't I?" told Carlos. He glanced at me, suspicious, but said nothing. He left with a pat on my shoulder, then drove off. I wanted to call someone, my dad, my best friend Gwen, but I didn't know what to say. I ducked into the back office, stared at the receipt tapes, took a shot at dialing the local police, The dispatcher listened to me about 10 seconds. "No, ma'am. Nothing suspicious here. Just 2 registers. Did you call your manager?" "All." Tom was nowhere to be found. I called his cell. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. Later I learned he was out of town. Who knows where? I left the store feeling hollow, not scared, just alone, like part of me was missing. 2 nights later, I woke to a call from Danny, my coworker who worked days. She was crying. "I saw him," she whispered, "by the dumpster at my apartment complex tonight, voice shaky, watching me." She paused. He was wearing a Ridge Hill name tag. She choked. Tom's name. I couldn't sit still. My blood felt colder. I didn't sleep. I replayed that line over and over. "You weren't supposed to be on tonight." He knew it wasn't her shift. He knew my schedule better than I did. I drove to her apartment the next morning. The dumpster area was empty. Streetlights washed out broken beer bottles, not a trace. But Danny swore. When I called Tom again, his voicemail said he'd be back in a few days. I didn't buy it. I stayed late every night after that. Rinsed bleach under the register, wore gloves, pretended not to notice every knock on the door, even the gusty ones real customers made. The store had cameras, but the guard never filmed anything. Nothing would show up, nobody together except me. My shift picked up tension. I watched the security mirror like a cat. I memorized the angle, 160 degrees of cold ceiling and aisles. I thought maybe he'd try again. One evening around 8:45, I heard a jar rattle in aisle 3. I turned, looked over. Nobody. The rattler noise disappeared. My chest tightened. I checked the mirror. I was alone. At 9:10, the man walked in again. Still in a tan jacket, ball cap low. He didn't go shopping. He went to register 2. I pulled the security mic behind the counter. It didn't work. Somebody cut the line. Not cut, disabled. Doctors did a remote patch. That meant permission was given. He spoke softly. "Empty it." My heart hammered. I pressed a silent alarm button. Nothing. No beep, no click, no CCTV feed. I slid cash into a bag. "Watch it rustle." He finished and turned. "See?" he said softly. "Nothing happens." I swallowed. He leaned in, holding up a plastic badge. Tom's name, Ridge Hill Market. He said nobody else would be at register 2. "He said you'd be here." I retracted my eyes. He pressed the badge toward me. "He's watching." He dropped the badge and walked out. I closed the store in a daze. Called Gwen. She said I sounded broken, but she drove 20 minutes to visit. We sat on my porch and talked for hours. Finally, I admitted I didn't trust Tom. He scheduled me under pressure from who? Corporate? A client? Danny went public on social media, said she'd seen the man. Someone commented they saw him at her workplace too, wearing Tom's badge. I messaged Tom, "Is this about a robbery you're planning?" No reply. Instead, he texted, "Stay home tonight." I didn't. I took my shotgun lock, hid it under the counter. Didn't expect much, but I didn't care. That night, I stayed at register 1. When the bell rang at 9:30, I was ready. It was him again. Same clothes, same calm. But I hit the button above the counter, the silent alarm. Nothing. He walked across, sneered. "He didn't warn you." Reached inside, pulled Tom's badge again. "Are you Tom?" I asked. He smirked, pointed at the badge. "I am tonight." He stepped back. Another customer arrived, a jogger, sweaty and out of breath, completely oblivious. The man vanished into aisle 4. By the time the jogger left, he was gone. No register 2, no camera, no police. Gwen arrived while I was staring at the badge. She held me. We checked store footage together the next morning. Nobody but me and a jogger. The second register was dark. The mic was dead. Nobody accessed it. Tom came back Tuesday. He strode in, beige slacks, pressed shirt. He glanced at me. I held up the badge. "You know who this is, don't you?" He didn't answer. He just walked to office. I followed. He shut the door and locked it. I let it sit 50 seconds, then knocked. He opened. He looked at me, tired, then said, "Yeah, it's me." Then he named himself as someone I never knew, someone who'd waited for the store to clear, used the schedule to target me, and twisted my manager's name and credentials so I'd comply. He'd monitored my lane remotely, cut mic and cameras. He'd planned it all. Tom confessed he'd done same to previous cashiers, got promoted, then burned them out. He apologized, said he'd been arrested last night by police outside his apartment when an officer stopped him pacing in his Ridge Hill uniform at 2 a.m. He said he'd turned off his phone. We never reported everything. The official story was robbery and remote security tampering. Tom was fired. He disappeared. I quit that night. Sometimes the person you trust most holds the key to your worst nightmare. Pay attention. Systems fail, and when they do, your instincts won't. When the alarm doesn't sound, trust your voice. No, sorry, just trust yourself before anyone else does.